like to do is to just play a very short 911 call that came into our dispatch center. And a couple of things I'd like you to notice. It's only about a 2 or 3 minute phone call. But what I'd like you to notice a few things. First, you'll hear some bits of silence, and that was things that we intentionally redacted out, such as addresses and some inappropriate context. So there's nothing wrong with the call, but we actually took a little bit of out. I want you to notice how calm everyone is, including the caller, including our dispatcher. It's amazing to me if you put yourself in the same position, if you would react the same way. I'd like you to notice how quickly that both the fire department and our sheriff's office were paged to the scene. And then the last thing is just how quickly that the first arriving first responder, which in this case just happened to be one of our deputies, arrived on scene. So I'm just going to play it for you real quickly.
40 and 6 seconds p.m.
Washington County 911, where is your emergency?
Hello?
Hi, this is the Sheriff's Department. How can I help you?
My husband stopped breathing.
What address are you at?
From the hospital.
You said... Okay, and he's not breathing?
No,
Going up, I think.
He's what?
Going up, I think.
Is he not breathing or is he throwing up?
No, he's not. He's not breathing at all.
No, there's no.
Okay, is anyone able to possibly start doing compressions for CPR?
My son is pressing on his chest right now.
Okay, all right, my partner is going to page out rescue, and my other partner is going to get a deputy headed to the... How old is your husband?
My husband is 65.
Okay, and you said your son is starting CPR compression?
He's doing compressions on his chest right now.
Okay, and does he know what he's doing? Does he know how to do the compression?
I don't know if he's just pressing on his chest. I turned on my lights on my front porch.
Okay, are you able to put your phone on speaker so I can kind of walk him through how he should do the compression?
Yes, I have it on speaker right now.
Okay, sir, can you hear me?
Adam,
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, is he on the floor on a hard, flat... Are you able to pull him off the bed onto the floor so he's on a hard, flat surface so we can start the compressions?
It's pretty heavy.
We'll get him on the floor.
If you get him on the floor, the compressions hopefully will help. Otherwise, if he's on the bed, it's not going to do anything, I'm sorry to say.
Fine.
Are you able to get him on the floor, sir?
We're trying right now. Hold on.
Okay.
April 11th, 2024, 11:42 and 25 seconds p.m.
So let me know when you have him on the floor, okay?
Yeah. Okay, he's on the floor. He just threw up.
Okay.
Stuff off his mouth.
Okay, it looks like our deputy, can one of you, ma'am, could you maybe let our deputy in?
Oh, I'll get him.
Okay, you get the deputy, and sir, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Is he on the floor now?
Yeah.
Okay, the deputy's coming in, but until she comes in, can you put one palm of your hand in the middle of his chest and put the other hand on top and start compressing about 2 inches deep?
She's in here right now.
She's there now? Okay,
Yes.
then I'm going to let her start the compressions, and we have rescue coming shortly behind her, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so that's the background to the 911 call that I'd like to address. What I'd like to do is just to bring up our staff, and I believe Jackson Fire Department is a representative here. No, okay, sorry. So Milwaukee Fire Department. Sorry, okay, my fault. Well, if I could have communications officer Lorraine Meyer. We call her Rini, but she's been a part-time dispatcher with our office for nearly 15 years. Which is, I mean, that's very impressive to have this skill set working on a part-time basis to begin with. And then if I could have Sergeant Brandon Hood come on up here. He's a third shift supervisor. He's got 8.5 years on with the sheriff's office. And Deputy John Gullenbeck. He's only been with our office for 1 year, but as a lateral transfer, he brings a wealth of experience as well. And then finally, I'd like to bring Deputy Stephanie Kalish up here. She's been with the county for about 7 years, patrol 5 years in that neighborhood. She was actually the first responding officer that arrived on scene. So what I'd like to do is just to read the acknowledgement. Whereas the Washington County Emergency Communications Center received a 911 call on Thursday, April 11th, 2024 at 11:40 p.m. A woman called and reported noticing her 65-year-old husband who would stop breathing in bed. Whereas Communications Officer Larry Meyer answered the 911 call quickly and recognized the urgency of the situation. She immediately requested her coworkers paid the Jackson Fire Department and Rescue and the Sheriff's Office staff to the town of Polk home while she stayed online with the caller. Whereas Communications Officer Larry Meyer followed emergency medical dispatching protocols and provided the wife and son with CPR instructions, which included getting the patient on the floor to facilitate chest compressions. And whereas Deputy Stephanie Kalish arrived within 1 minute and 8 seconds from the time of dispatch, Deputy Stephanie Kalish promptly attached the AED, that's the defibrillator that we carry in our squads, and began CPR. Sergeant Brandon Hood and Deputy Stephen Nurkula, he's not able to be here today, and Deputies John Gullenbeck arrived soon thereafter and assisted with CPR and shocked the patient 3 times before emergency medical personnel from the Jackson Fire Department arrived on scene. Jackson Fire Department arrived on scene and provided 2 additional shocks and was able to regain a pulse. Whereas the patient was transported to the hospital where he spent a week and has since made a recovery. Now, therefore, be resolved that Communications Officer Larry Meyer, Sergeant Brandon Hood, Deputy Stephanie Kalish, Stephen Nurkula, and John Galebuck are hereby acknowledged for their exceptional professionalism and dedication to the well-being of the citizens of this county. This incident really highlights how all aspects of EMS kind of came together. We had emergency medical dispatching, which we instituted in our dispatch center a while ago, where our dispatchers are trained to give that life-saving instructions over the phone. We had a quick response by our first responders, the deputies, that were able to get the AED hooked up very, very quickly. And then lastly, the EMS was able to, really high-trained medical personnel arrived shortly thereafter, was able to continue that care, and was able to actually get the pulse back from the individual. So the individual's name is with his permission, I played the call, and I'm going to actually introduce him. He's actually in our audience. His name is Mark Peters, and he wanted just to say a couple of words. Mr. Peters, if I could have you come on up.
Thank you, everybody. If you can see the shirt, it says battery operated, lifetime warranty on it. First of all, I'd like to thank my wife and my son, and especially Stephanie, because without them, I would not be here. So thank you guys all so much for all the work you do and everything. So, and Jackson Rescue Squad, they had 6 personnel that were there. There were a total of 10 people in our house at that time. So it was kind of chaotic, but I'm here because of the fast response of your teams. Thank you very much.
Stephanie? Thank you very much. Thank you very much for allowing me that time. I think it's just important to recognize our staff and to give you guys the opportunities to kind of hear some real-time stories.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. And thanks to all our staff who work so tirelessly, selflessly, and with such dedication. When you see these incidents, a lot of us don't see these all the time. And so it's very important, Sheriff, that you bring them to us and that we have the opportunity to see them and acknowledge the good work that our county employees are doing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next item of business is the election of a vice chairperson for the Public Safety Committee. Do we have any nominations?
like to nominate Tony Toma.
We need a second for a nomination? Do you accept, sir?
No, but I would like to make a nomination. I'd like to nominate Jim Berg.
Very well. Do you accept the nomination,
I do.
sir? Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I would move that we would entertain a motion to cast a unanimous ballot for Mr. Jim Berg, Supervisor Jim Berg, as Public Safety Committee Chairperson.
I'll make that motion if that's what you're asking.
Very well. Mr. Newman,
I'll second it.
Mr. Toma with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Supervisor Berg. Thank you. Our next item of business, item C under discussion, is a fire and EMS update. And for that, we have with us this morning Chief Tony Burkhart and Brian Heckendorf. I call him President Brian Heckendorf because he's president of the Village of Jackson, but also serves on the Jackson Fire Department. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thanks for having us. First off, that outside the door is a very hard act to follow. Fortunately, I was not on that call because those calls can be very stressful and things like that, but that is just a perfect example of the importance of fire and EMS in our county. So what a perfect segue into the things that Tony and I are here to discuss and give you guys a little bit of an update on here today. So I know there's some new people on the Public Safety Committee and things like that. So I'm going to give a little bit of background as to how we have come to where we are from the from the Fire and EMS Task Force, and then Tony can also chime in where he sees fit. So probably close to a year now, the chief elected officials have been having a monthly meeting, and during those monthly meetings, we've tried to come up with collaboration on how to share resources, some shared revenue and funding sources and things like that. One of the main things that has come out of those meetings, and it's been all along, is that the impact that the cost of fire and EMS have on municipal budgets. So, I mean, obviously all of you know how hard it is to maintain those municipal budgets when the cost keeps skyrocketing and things like that. So, again, it was a common theme with all the municipalities that are coming to these meetings that is a large portion of everybody's budget. So we started to come up with ways to possibly look at helping each other out, looking for ways to share resources, things like that. So a fire and EMS task force was created, and that's a mixture of fire people. It's a mixture of municipality people and things like that, and also a citizen member. So the Fire and EMS Task Force, Tony is the chair of that committee. I am the vice chair, and the members are Deputy Chief Chuck Beisel from the West Bend Fire Department, Terry Cole, which is a citizen member but also a retired fire chief from Village of Richfield, now retired fire chief from Hartford, Paul Stevens, Chief of EMS in Allenton, Sue Wolf, Dean Walter, the Village of Germantown president, Troy Zagel, the chairman from the town of West Bend, Mark Foisey is a citizen member from the town of Farmington, correct? And then Jim Warnke, he is the assistant chief up in Kewaskum. So, and also myself. So, like Mr. Schwab had alluded to earlier, I'm the village president in Jackson, but I also just had my 25-year anniversary on the Jackson Fire Department. So I believe I bring a unique viewpoint to this whole task force, and that I see both sides of the fence. So there's been a lot of conversations, a lot of good meetings, a lot of good input from everybody. And then I'm also on the subcommittee for the task force, which we had been tasked with working with county staff, which they have been awesome. Bill Coor has been amazing to work with the RFP on for the study that we're looking to have done. And, the things that we're looking to put into the study are the sharing of the resources. And everybody says, well, why do we need a study? Now, what I tell people is we don't know what we don't know until we know. And there's so many things, and we don't know. There might be options out there for us to improve the efficiency, share the resources, things like that we have no idea. So that's what we're looking to get out of this study. So with that, Tony, you have anything to add?
Sure. Thanks for having us again. Appreciate it. So on the back of what Brian had brought up, the county fire chiefs collectively we're working on an idea of how can we all help each other out. In a case like we just had before us, if Mrs. Smith needs help or Mr. Smith needs help, should it matter what it says on the side of the ambulance showing up? No, it probably shouldn't, right? Does it matter what it should say on the side of the fire engine showing up to a fire? No, whoever can get there quickest. So we're trying to compile ideas together, working with Executive Josh Schulman, and this county task force got built together and stood up so that we can find out some of those answers that Brian had mentioned, so we can work together and figure out maybe there's something that we haven't thought about, but if it comes from an external source and says, hey, have you realized that this is an option? This is a model has been worked on the East Coast, the West Coast, somewhere else in the United States that we can start putting our efforts in to try to work together collectively.
I guess we're open to any questions that you guys would have.
Do any of the committee members have questions? Go ahead.
I don't know if it's a question, more of a comment. So I've been fortunate to be part of many of these discussions between elected leaders, and I've attended the task force meetings, and some of the comments I got from people outside of that group are the county's wasting money, $150,000 I think towards a study, and that's really an unfortunate persona. This is a big problem. And it's not just a Washington County problem, it's state, it's nationwide, it's a problem all over. When you get all these different municipalities or different fire companies in the room, there's such a variety of operations, from full-time staff to full volunteer and everywhere in between. So this study is money well spent. I'm glad we're doing it. There's probably not a one answer fix all type of situation, but there's a lot of fire companies right now in a lot of trouble because of this, and we're hoping timeline wise I think next spring, right?
Spring, correct, yeah.
So the results?
The RFP is out, so there are companies out there that are taking out the documents and things like that. So yeah, we're expecting to have the results back in spring, first Q1 of 2025.
So the answer is not always money. Money does help, but there's other problems. There's other sharing. There's more solutions than just money that's going to solve the problem. So the study should certainly help with that. I mean, that's the intention of it. I mean, I just want to say I appreciate all the work and all the dedication that all of you have brought to that group, because it is a lot of work, and I'm glad we're to the point we are now with the RFP.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, then I think it's important that we do a study as well. There is, among the fire departments, wherever I've lived, there's always pride in the work that the fire departments do, and that's rightly so. As we bring together and hope to coalesce multiple departments into a more workable package perhaps for the county, do you sense that any of those individual department points of pride might be an issue with, well, we want to do this or we want to do that and we have to maintain our identity, or do you get the feel that all the chiefs at this point really are willing to set aside their past achievements in their departments to just do what's best for the county?
You want to tackle that?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, pride is a great tradition in the fire service, and with pride comes the honor of what you provide. I don't think that there is any single fire chief, any single department, fire company in the county that would put that before the needs of the citizens. Are there, as you mentioned, some personalities to overcome? Sure, but nothing that can't be overcome. And I believe every fire chief has the same standing, that they understand the gravity of the situation and are willing to work together on such a big undertaking as this for the betterment of all the citizens of the county.
That's great. Thank you. One other question. Sometimes when studies are done, it's almost like an expensive rubber stamp for what the local chief wants to do. How can we avoid that in this situation to make sure that we're doing what's best for everybody and it isn't just a rubber stamp of whatever input they get?
Good question, and I agree. I mean, obviously, you and I both know that we had a study done in Jackson a few years back. One thing that Executive Shulman did give as kind of a suggestion or guideline for this study is that we look at companies not in the state of Wisconsin. So I think if we look at somebody outside of the area, that impact or the influence that local chiefs or department members may have should hopefully be lower. But yeah, you're right. So I think the other thing too is that ultimately the study will be flowing through the task force. There will be interviews and stuff like that from the company that is selected. And I think with the elected officials that are on that task force and the other people that are members of the task force, I think we're going to hopefully get a honest opinion on what we should do. So you are correct, and it's a fine line to walk with that. But my hope is that we get a study that, hey, this is what we should do, and if somebody's ego might get hurt a little bit, it's still what the best thing is to do for the people in the county.
Thank you. And one last question for me anyway. One of the great things about Washington County is its idyllic nature, its agrarian feel, right? And some people come to Washington County and they want to live out in the country and kind of get away from it all, right? Last night at 9 o'clock when I was going to bed, the sirens were going off in Jackson. There was a call somewhere. And if you're out in the country, you don't get that, right? You don't get those noises. But by the same token, if you're out in the country, it takes a while for first responders to get there. And so does the task force have in mind what the ultimate goal would be? Is it to have equal service throughout the county so that someone in the farthest corner of the county gets the same service as someone in Hartford? Or, do you have in mind how that might all be equalized?
Well, I think that's actually the purpose for using this consultant, that each of the chiefs, each of the departments, some of the elected officials all have ideas of what could be provided. And while I don't want to use the word equal, but similar services, that every citizen should have an equal opportunity to have those services provided. Because of the unique structure of Washington County, you have those extremely rural areas down to the extremely populated city areas. I don't believe you'll find the same level of service, the same response time in every square mile of the county. I don't believe that we can get there in a short period of time. But every citizen having equal access to a level of that service, yes. It's just going to vary where you are based upon what you have municipality-wise and response-wise from fire and EMS.
Maybe just to elaborate a little bit on that. So the highest level of EMS care is paramedic service. So with the agreements that are in place with the departments that are not offering a paramedic level of service in the county right now, they do have agreements that they are able to get an intercept from, say, West Bend, like up in the northern part of the county, Kewaskum, things like that. If they have a critical call, they're calling West Bend for a paramedic intercept. So they are sending a paramedic to ride along with that ambulance to provide that level of care. So we're kind of doing it now, but probably not the most efficient way, is my thought. So, but again, you got West Bend is a career hub department, if you want to call it that, and their call volume is going up and up and up too. And everybody around them and the whole county is constantly calling West Bend for help to come help them out because they have the full-time staffing. That is one thing that we're hoping that this study and being able to reallocate resources within the county will hopefully take that burden off of those hub departments, if you want to call them that.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions for the committee? Thank you very much for coming in this morning. We appreciate your input, your report.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Next item on the agenda, Sheriff's Department quarterly report.
So, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you, these kind of bounce around from captain to captain. I'll just kind of hit mine and then.
Please do. Thank you.
All right. So the first part is the next generation 911. And with respect to our goals there, we kind of had two of them: discuss strategy for long-range planning with other PSAPs in the county. As you're aware, we recently consolidated with the city of Hartford and are currently working with the village of Germantown with a planned consolidation. So those talks are ongoing. Hartford is fully consolidated, and Germantown, we're hoping to do a similar phased-in approach like we did with Hartford, but looking to do that sometime this fall, starting with their third shift and then continuing on with the other shifts as staffing allows. With respect to the implementation of the next generation 911 system, this is a project that was ultimately put on the capital improvement project, but a new funding source came in before we had to use that. It was the Department of Military Affairs PSAP grant, the fiscal year 23 PSAP grant. So with respect to that project, we were awarded a $365,000 grant from the state. It's a 80-20 matching grant, so the county share is about $73,000. In addition to the 20% match that the county is putting up with this, the county is also responsible for years 2 through 5 of a multi-year maintenance contract on that equipment. The state paid for year 1. We're responsible for year 5. And our portion of that maintenance agreement is about $100,000. I previously mentioned the fact that we had this CIP project set up for 23. We had $250,000 in that CIP. So paying the 20% state match as well as the 5-year maintenance contract, that'll leave about $77,000 in that CIP that we won't need. So the project's about $1,000 under budget, and majority of the equipment has been installed. The call handling equipment, it's been operable since about last July. I'd like to come before you today and say we are hooked up to the state's ESSINet, but that isn't the case. We are at the will of other vendors such as AT&T, and I don't think we're alone in that. I think other counties are behind schedule in that. I know I previously came before this body and thought that we would, first it was March and then it was May, and now I'm here to tell you that I'm not sure that it's going to happen before the end of the year. That's, like I say, it's kind of out of our control. We're just waiting on AT&T and Baycom to come up with a schedule that works for them. Once that ESSINet, once we get on the state's ESSINet, we'll implement the text to 911. So that's kind of a hinge to that. Again, that's the rights have all been purchased. Everything's ready to go, but it's all conditioned on getting hooked up to the ESSINet. And then the last part of our project, again, conditional of that, is the logging equipment that's necessary to record those text to 911s. And so we're hoping that as soon as this thing goes with AT&T, the other parts of this will fall in place and we'll be able to close this project down. Any questions on the next generation 911?
Any questions from the committee? County Board Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This business with AT&T, is there a bigger hammer than us, the state or whatever, working on that, or do we have hope that it's going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to happen. I think the state is clearly aware of what's going on. They allowed us to close this grant down ahead of time, I think because it's an 18-month grant, and they know that things aren't moving as quickly as they would like. So the state has allowed us to close this grant down to recapture those funds. So that paperwork has been filed with them, and the county's going to recapture funds before we're on the system. I think it's a new technology, and I'm thinking that implementation for the first couple of counties, Dane, maybe didn't go as smoothly as everybody thought. The good part about that is we hope that they work out those kinks so that as the other counties start coming on, that it's a much smoother transition. And like I said, I don't want to say it's all AT&T's fault. There is some coordination with other vendors that has to take place. But it just seems like AT&T throughout this whole project has been kind of the lagging issue in it. So.
But aside from that portion, you're comfortable with how things are going?
Very comfortable. We partnered with Baycom on this project, and they've been great partners to work with. Very responsive, both in installation and service. So I'm very comfortable with, that's who we have our multi-year maintenance contract with. That has been a great partnership. They've got knowledgeable people that are prompt. The equipment is in, all the call handling equipment is in. We're still working on analog lines, but it's the same equipment. It can kind of do both, so that's working good. The maps are in. So like I say, the backbone is in. We're just waiting to make that transition from analog to the internet-based SENet, and that gives us the whole text and 911 and some other capabilities. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? It's obvious that you have somewhat of a level of frustration with the process, but thank you for your diligence.
yeah, well, we would have liked to have it finished by now, but like I say, some things are out of our control. The next thing I'll speak about is the radio system, the countywide radio system project. This was a four-phase project. Phase one kind of started with going out and obtaining frequency allocations, discovering, trying to figure out what sites would be good tower sites for us. We had a goal in the project to get off of leased towers. So there are 2 towers in particular that we lease from a private tower company. We pay what I think is an exorbitant amount of rent on those towers. So early on in this process, we made it one of our goals to get off of those towers. We figure based on what we're paying, the buyback in that is about 10 years. So after 10 years, we're to the good on that deal. And we thought that was a good investment. So phase one identified the tower sites. We worked with the town of Erin. We got a new site down there it's on municipal ground, but it's a county-owned tower. The other site that we did is over in Fredonia, which is a partnership between us and Ozaukee County, where we jointly built a tower on county-owned ground. So that was great. We're going to split the cost right down the middle with Ozaukee County. Both counties are going to hang their radio equipment on it, and that's going to be kind of a hub, a linking point for the 2 systems. Where now we run through what's called an ISSI. We're actually going to have a physical location where the 2 systems can link up. It's going to open some doors up in the future, potentially with shared services and reduced maintenance costs. So that was a really nice deal working with them. Phase 2 was the actual construction of those towers. The new tower in Kewaskum to replace the Lattice tower that was there, the tower in Erin, and the Pinnacle tower. To date on that project, we're about 85% complete. It was a $1.6 million project. And basically, I say 85% complete because what remains on it is the decommissioning of the old tower and the equipment off of the rented sites. So the rented sites have to stay up until the new system gets on, and when it does, our equipment will come off of those sites. So I say phase 2 is about 85% complete, and all that remains is the decommissioning. Well, we had originally thought we were going to do phases 3 and 4 independently. We quickly learned that there was some economies of scale that we could have achieved by buying both the end user radios and the backbone radio equipment. By merging those together, we got some pretty good discounts from the manufacturers. So we elected to join those 2 phases, phases 3 and 4. That ended up to be almost a $13 million phase. And today we're about 20% complete. Part of that phase is the installation of the new microwave ring for the system. Currently now we have a small ring with spurs, and the new system will have it'll be a full ring that offers redundancy, because if you have a tower go down, the ring just goes in reverse. It happens in the blink of an eye. We really don't have that redundancy currently, and so we'll be looking forward to having that done. The microwaves are installed at 10 of the 11 towers that we have equipment on, with the last one being the Germantown Water Tower, and that should be going on shortly. Electrical work, HVAC work, that type of stuff has all been done at the towers themselves, tower sites. And so the next goal here is to, once the new microwave ring is up, we will take the county's existing equipment, get it on the new microwave ring, and then once that happens, we'll start replacing the actual radio equipment. The last time I came before you, I told you that Raycom was pushing hard to get this coverage testing done before the end of the year. We need full foliage before we're going to accept anything. And Raycom has told us that's just simply not going to happen. They've got vendor delays. It's not going to happen in 24. So coverage testing won't happen until 25 once the foliage comes up. It's going to extend this project out to probably next December of 25. We know that there's some aging radios out there. We didn't want to, the fact that they weren't able to meet coverage testing, we didn't want to let that slow this project down or slow getting new radios into the hands of first responders. So we worked with Raycom because the public safety radios are dual band. They have the ability to run on multiple different systems. Raycom, we're going to start implementing the new radios already this fall and getting them in the hands of first responders. The radios themselves will run on the old system, but because they have that capability, they'll just seamlessly switch to the new system when acceptance comes sometime in 25. With respect to DPW radios, those radios are not dual banded. They're only multi-banded. They will only work on the new system, and so, Doug, sorry, but municipal radios will come on next year sometime. It's a multi-month process. It's like a 15-month process, but I would say probably starting sometime in July and then concluding in October of next year when your DPW radios will start coming on. Just to give you an idea of the scope of this project, there's 679 new mobile radios that need to be, or old radios that need to be taken out of vehicles and new radios put in. There's 553 portable radios that need to be programmed and distributed, and 493 existing dual band radios on the system, whether mobile and portable, that need to be factory reconditioned, have new firmware upgrades, and put back into service. So it's a daunting task from a subscriber end of things, and it's an equally large task from the installation of the new equipment, the climbing of the towers, hanging antennas, and things like that. So the process is ongoing, and again, we should wrap up sometime late 25.
Any questions or comments on this topic? Yes, sir.
My question is for the new towers. You know, we currently rent on existing towers.
Two of the towers.
Is there any opportunity with our new towers to have rental space available, or does that not work with?
I guess it's possible because the towers that lie within Washington County reside on municipal ground. Any sort of rental would have to be an agreement between both the county and the local municipality. So
I'm just thinking as a revenue source to offset maintenance costs.
Right. We do get those requests all the time, but it really needs to kind of start with the municipality. We have similar agreements with Richfield, where they own the ground and we've got the tower. They have to lease the ground and then they lease tower space from the county. So it's got to kind of start with the landowner first, being the municipality, and then we can kind of talk once about if the municipality is interested in it. We are obviously open and interested to that as well.
Any other questions?
I have a question on this shared one that we have with Ozaki County.
Yes.
Can they go ahead and rent space on that without us approving it?
They can. So we're helping. It's their tower. They're going to pay the maintenance costs on the tower moving forward. They've agreed to pay the electric bills on it. It's going to be their tower, and they're going to capture any revenues for any co-locates that they may put on that tower.
Thank you. One last question, and I'm not sure if you have an answer at this point, but with a 10-year payback on building our own towers, what's the life expectancy of an average tower?
I don't know the actual life expectancy. I can tell you that some of the ones we have are in excess of 25 years old, 87, I think, like the one up in Kewaskum.
Yeah.
So they can do maintenance. They do, the one in Slinger is probably older, decades old. So they do reinforcements, modifications as the tower ages. There's different maintenance things that are done, so they can really rejuvenate and or even add additional capacity with modifications. So it's a pretty long-standing structure.
Thank you.
I believe the last one I have is maintain public safety communication center secure and sensibly regulated, the consolidation of dispatch services between Washington County and the City of Hartford. That kind of goes along, the recent consolidation with City of Hartford kind of goes along with what we're calling the fiscal year 24 State of Wisconsin PSAP grant. That grant kind of came up around the same time that we entered into discussions with Hartford. So it was great to take advantage of that grant to try to implement that consolidation between us and Hartford. That process consisted of building out our dispatch center, adding a new bullpen to the dispatch center and replacing some equipment, and as well as adding 3 dispatchers to our staff. The Sheriff's Office started dispatching for Hartford on October 11th of 23. We took over their 3rd shift between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. There was kind of a cascading effect where we continued to take more hours. That ultimately concluded on February 19th of this year. We took full consolidation of the city of Hartford. Hartford also elected to join the county's records management system. So that made that consolidation kind of seamless. That's the way our information goes from our CAD out to the cars, and then the way that cops can input information from a call back into the records management system. So it's kind of all connected. And so they are on that ProPhoenix multi-juris system as well. I believe I can speak for everyone involved. I think the process went fantastic. There was great collaboration between us and the city of Hartford. Between our dispatchers, our supervisors, Hartford personnel, city people. I just think it's a template for success the way that went. As far as the staffing, the 3 newly hired Hartford officers, or Hartford communications officers, they're county employees, but we're just, so all 3 have been hired. 1 is on her own, and the other 2 are in training. 1 is expected to get off sometime in mid-May, and the 3rd is expected to complete training sometime in June. Until we're at capacity, or till we're at full staffing, and just all the overtime, or all the extra spots are being filled with overtime currently. So we are significantly over on overtime to make this work year to date. I think the last one is identify, secure, and implement cost-effective backup dispatch center. This has kind of been going in a bunch of different directions. We initially were going to use our Richfield Tower site as a backup location. They've got the fire station there, the old fire station that they don't use anymore. And we had initially thought for a reasonable price we could get in that tower, that fire station, rent some office space from the fire department, and put a backup dispatch center there. There are 2 positions. It could have been done fairly reasonably because the tower location is right there. It would have been literally hard link from the building to the tower. But that planning kind of happened before these consolidations took place, and the reality is that one site isn't going to be enough to be able to handle the consolidations that have happened. So we kind of looked bigger picture. We kind of switched gears and started looking at Ozaukee County. Their dispatch center doesn't necessarily have the extra capacity either, but they are in the process of moving that into an old training room that over there that would in fact give them the capacity. So we're confident that once that move takes place, there'll likely be some extra capacity, and that's probably the SENet is going to offer us the ability to be able to, flexibility to be able to move over to Ozaukee, and likewise them come over by us. So that's kind of what we're focusing on. We do have a meeting with them next week, and that's one of the things I'd like to talk about, is just to get a status update on where they're at in moving into their new dispatch center, and then providing them an update of ours. In the meantime, if something happens, we've got still Germantown dispatch center is still up. The city of West Bend is still up. We've got our command post that has a console in it. We've got the EOC upstairs. So while we may not be putting everybody in one location, it may be more of you're putting people at different locations to try to pull that backup off. So I think we do have a backup plan. It may not be the greatest, but I think it's a workable plan until something solider gets in place.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? If not,
okay, I think that's done with me.
All right.
Actually, I have one question. Were you not on? I'm sorry. Were you not on here for body cam update?
I think that project was complete. At least it shows completed on mine.
It's all yellow.
Okay.
I mean, I can give you an update on it. But
No, that's fine.
okay. All right.
Thank you very much. Moving on then to, yes, sir.
Captain Lehman. I'm going to touch base on the jail. Yes. So I'm Captain Lehman, for those of you who do not know me. I am the jail administrator, so as the title suggests, I am the, basically my area of responsibility is all things jail. I just, for these quarterly reports, I'm going to be touching on a couple of different things. I think you guys are probably interested in our jail population and our hiring. So I'll kind of touch on those each time when I'm up here. Also talk about our projects that we have going on in the jail. So currently this morning, our population in the jail for adults is 180 that are actually housed within the jail, and then an additional 11 inmates who are serving their sentence on electronic monitoring. While they're serving their sentence on electronic monitoring, they have a bracelet on, GPS tracking. We know where they're at all times. There's also alcohol sensors that we can also utilize with those bracelets, where they have to provide breath tests throughout the day, stuff like that. We also do house visits on those inmates, and we also have them come in for drug screens and things like that. Our juvenile facility currently has 7 juveniles. Again, we're a regional facility, so there's only 12 county-level juvenile facilities in the state of Wisconsin. So we are all kind of acting as regional facilities. So our 7 kids, we do not have any Washington County juveniles at this time. All 7 of those juveniles are from other counties. Hiring, I'll touch base on that briefly. I'm very, very pleased to say that so far in 2024, we have had 10 new hires for the jail. I believe last year we had 3 for the entire year. So 10 is definitely a step in the right direction in cutting into our vacancies. We did have a retirement today. It is one of my sergeant's last days. He has been with the county for over 33 years, 30 of those years as a jail sergeant. So a lot of experience going to be leaving today. But we do have a 19-year-old candidate starting in at the end of this month. So we lowered our age, so it's going to be a little more challenging for my staff training-wise. But it's bringing in some fresh blood and some very motivated individuals, some good candidates. So with today's retirement and the new applicant that's starting at the end of May, we will be at 3 vacancies, which is pretty good, but we're not done yet. So I've got a number of applicants that are kind of in the hopper right now. At different various stages, anywhere from background to just the initial phone interviews. So we look at cutting into those 3 vacancies as we move forward. Next, I'll talk about our EOS projects, projects going on in the jail. I'm really going to be touching on 2 of those specifically. One is the Integrated Control System project. This is a very large project. It's barely getting off the ground right now. We did receive a quote a while back on, it was an early quote on the estimate on what it was going to cost for this project. Since that time, there's been a number of increases in pricing on certain components. So we are looking at, we're kind of revamping the scope a little bit to bring down some of the cost, and then to try to absorb some of those other costs that are going up. So I'm waiting right now on an updated quote. Once I have that, then we're going to start moving forward. But this project is basically handling all of the components within the jail that operate doors opening and closing. If you remember if you guys came through on the tour, all of our cell doors, or the majority of our cell doors, are operated by touchscreen. So this is all of the components of that system, as well as our intercom system, which communicates within the facility from door to door, from control area to certain access points, and from staff to inmates as well. Part of that is also replacing all of the programmable logic controllers, PLCs. That is basically what powers, gives the commands for all of those touchscreen actions to do what we need them to do. So it's a pretty intense project, but it's much needed. Our jail is, most of our jail is 23 plus years old. The majority of the technology that this is touching is right around the 20-year mark. So it's long past its useful life. So as that project gets rolling and we get updated quotes, I'll be giving further updates on that. Another project that is kind of ongoing, has been since 2023, is our food pass security upgrades. In the jail, we have these small doors that are within our main cell doors. We use those for passing food trays in and out, clothing, and basically interacting with inmates through that food pass. Generally, it's not an issue, but we do have our high-risk maximum security inmates who that door basically gives them the opportunity to assault staff, throw bodily fluids or foreign objects out. So that's one thing that we wanted to try to improve our staff safety by, it's basically a modification to the door. It's equipment that goes on the outside of the door that prevents, there's a metal slider that prevents anything from coming in and out, and then there's a box that attaches on the outside where we could put items in, we can secure it, and then the inmate will open it up, the inmate side, and the inmate can take items out and pass things that way. So it's just staff security is really what it is. It's been, we started off in June getting some samples and trying. We had our first unit installed back then in 2023. Tried it out for a while. We really liked it. So we kind of worked this in as a phase. We're done with phase 1 implementation. Phase 2 will come at the September-ish. I'll be calling out for another quote for additional units, and then we'll do another phase in 2025. In total, I believe there's going to be 8 cells that'll be equipped with these devices throughout the facility. So any questions on the projects or anything else, Jail?
Question?
Supervisor Newman.
You mentioned the juveniles that are not from the county. Does the county receive funding from whatever county they're
Yes. So currently, well, as of January 1st, our board for housing juveniles is $225 a day. That went up from $150 last year.
And then a question about inmates that wear the bracelets. Is there a cost to that inmate for that?
Yes. Within the jail, within the sheriff's office, the jail is probably the primary, is the primary revenue source. So pretty much everything that they do in jail costs them money. So we've got co-pays, we've got board, Huber board, we've got EM fees. Specifically for Huber board, it's $20 a day for any of our working inmates that are going out and working in the community. For those on electronic monitoring, it goes up to $30 a day.
Okay. And the last question I have is the 3 vacancies. Is that including the additional positions?
Correct. That includes the 3 additional positions that were put in by Plan B of the referendum or the anti-crime.
Okay, that's all I have.
So yes, we are technically at 62 officers right now, or we will be in May. So that was our previous full staff before those 3 positions.
Supervisor Tolman.
I have a question on the bracelets. What kind of a range do they have on those? I mean, do they have to stay within a 10-mile radius, or how are you alerted if they leave the county?
So the bracelets can be programmed in a number of different ways. Most of our people who are on the electronic monitoring program are working in the community. So we set up schedules within the system based off of their work schedule. So the bracelet needs to be in certain areas at certain times. We can track them live GPS, so we'll know where they are along their route. But we can set up different things like perimeters around houses. We can also set up perimeters around other areas where we don't want them to go. So if the bracelet enters that area, we'll get alerted. That all gets alerted to all my staff within the jail.
Is that done all the time?
Yes. And we did have recently we had a subject who was living in a very rural area where the signal wasn't reliable enough for us. So we pulled him back in, and he's serving his time in the jail. We have to be able to keep track of them when they're on this on electronic monitoring.
I just have one more. Sitting on this committee the last couple of years, I know it's a never-ending job for getting COs, so I have to commend you on filling those positions where you have 10 new ones and only down to 3, because I know you were competing with Milwaukee.
Yeah, we're competing with everybody. Right now, the law enforcement as a whole, it's difficult to find interested candidates. So as the jail, we really feel it, and every jail in the state is fighting for the good candidates that are out there. I've been jail administrator since 2015, and I have not stopped the hiring process. We've been hiring my whole entire tenure here. So hopefully that'll change. 3 more to go.
So what have you done in the last couple of years to bring it up, with 10 new ones? Is it the wage increase?
Yeah, the wage increase that occurred in October of last year definitely helped. We didn't feel that right away, but as we crossed over into this year, I definitely have an uptick in applicants that are coming through, and good applicants. We made some other adjustments with the age. We lowered the age, things like that, which is also helping getting word out there more. We've been putting our recruitment flyer out on Facebook and things like that, just for awareness, because let's face it, not a lot of people are aware of the opportunity that is in the jail working with this type of clientele. But it's been going well. The applicants have been really good. My 10 that I've hired this year have all been very solid. So,
thank you, Captain.
Any other questions? Thank you for your report, Captain Lane.
Okay, I believe we have one more captain to go.
Good morning, I'm Captain Toish. I'm operations captain. I'll try and keep mine a little quicker. We have some new board members here, so I'm just going to go through and talk about our programs under Maintain Peace and Order that I'm responsible for. I'm kind of responsible for all the employees at the Sheriff's Office that carry a gun, to make it simple. So, the first thing that we instituted is, well, it started last year, but the Crisis Response Unit. All 4 teams are up and running. 4 deputies and 4 clinicians have been trained and taking calls for service, following up with individuals needing assistance on a daily basis. We see the benefits and the burden that has taken off our patrol division, because the patrol division would have been handling those complaints prior to the Crisis Response Unit being formed. Although it's hard to track, we truly believe that we're making a difference in the community and avoiding numerous emergency detentions and helping people in crisis. I can answer questions about each program as we go if we have any.
Does anyone have any questions? No, please proceed. Thank you.
Okay, and then under Maintain Peace and Order, the programs that we instituted under there, the traffic enforcement program. When the Sheriff's Office receives a complaint from a traffic concern from a citizen, we send a deputy to do X patrol. After the initial request, the case number is started, and a note is added to a calendar that we go back to that address and provide further extra patrols so that we just, we don't go once and forget about it. So currently there are 58 different areas in Washington County that we're doing this reoccurring traffic enforcement just this year. So we're staying on top of that program as well. School visit program, we have a deputy from first and second shift assigned to each school in our jurisdiction. They pay daily visits to these schools. Since the start of the school year, we have done 820 visits at the 18 different schools in our jurisdiction. Town liaison program, a deputy is assigned to each township to act as a liaison with the county or the town board members. They are direct contact for town officials, and they are contacted with concerns surrounding the township. They attend monthly meetings and report on activity within the township. If they're unable to attend, they send information to the township about the calls that have been occurring within the township. I'd like to say that we attend every town board meeting, but Doug's going to call me a liar. So that's one area that we're trying to improve on a little bit. Obviously, it's dependent upon if the deputy's busy with a call, if he's working that day or something. But I kind of reviewed this morning how often we're getting there, and I think there could be some improvement in that area. And then a canine program, that's up and running, complete. We have 2 canines. Deputy Kalish, who was here earlier today, has one of our dogs. His name is Razor. I think he's been in service probably 6 months now. He's doing really well. And the other canine is assigned to the Corrections Division under Officer Ludwig. That program is overseen by Sergeant Keeley. So Deputy Kalish kind of concentrates on the patrol aspect, and then Officer Ludwig concentrates within the jail. But we do use the dogs for school searches throughout the county. So that program's become pretty successful, and we're happy of where the dogs are at this point. And then just a couple other things, current staffing. Currently we have 2 vacancies. We have 84 sworn personnel. Currently in the process right now. We're hopeful that we should be able to fill those 2 vacancies pretty soon. Just to give you a kind of a where we're at for recruitment. 25 years ago when I applied, there was over 320 people applied for one position. This recruitment, we had 7. So we're in a good spot compared to other counties. I think one of the things that is helping us out a lot is our lateral transfer program. We're getting a lot of qualified candidates. We joke that we're District 8 for the city of Milwaukee, because I think we're up to 6 or 7 lateral transfers from the city of Milwaukee. So, but we're kind of hesitant years ago to do it, but we're getting a lot of qualified candidates out of that area. Plus other agencies throughout the county, we've had some lateral transfers too. So we're pretty good in that area. 2023, our deputies handled 44,719 calls for service. To date, this morning, we're just over 16,000 calls for service. And then just another note with the presentation we had earlier this morning with the CPR save, we actually had 2 other saves this year with our deputies involved in those types of medical calls. When we call a save, it's when the first responders arrive, if the patient's pulseless, non-breathing, and they leave with a pulse, we consider it a save. We don't necessarily follow up to see what their survival is after they leave the scene, but we have had 2 other saves in the county so far this year, besides the one that was celebrated this morning.
Thank you for your report, Captain Toyce. Did anyone have any questions? Don't see it.
Thank you.
Not even Doug. Thank you. Moving on then to the next agenda item, item E, Germantown dispatch process update.
So just kind of recapping where we're at with this. So last October, at the village board meeting, Germantown board voted to move forward with the consolidation of dispatch services between them and Washington County. The county board followed in suit in December and codified that via Resolution 48. So that process, through our researching of the data and using information that Germantown has given us and their geographical location, their closeness to Milwaukee and the I-41 corridor, it's a larger deal than Hartford. We put together, we believe it's going to take 6 new dispatchers and another dispatch supervisor to pull off that consolidation. Hiring, like I said, what the positions we have now are pretty much just those Hartford positions. We are in a hiring process, but I don't know that I can come here and say that any new positions for the Germantown consolidation have been hired. We had a retirement and we had a resignation that happened, and so any extra hiring that we have done is just trying to bolster up our current staffing. So we are currently running a hiring campaign, and I don't know that the quality of candidates is necessarily as good as the last one that we ran, but there's some decent candidates on there. We're going to be moving forward with interviews and hopefully making some job offers here. The Village of Germantown has graciously agreed to train, co-train, if you will. So one of the new hires that we hired out of the last bunch actually is down in Germantown working and being trained by Germantown communication officers. We hope that's there's kind of two-pronged effect there that gives them a little bit of relief, some extra assistance, but it also kind of helps jumpstart them once they get up here. That'll lessen the learning curve. So I think they've agreed to continue to do that, and depending on the candidate pool this time and the timing of where these new people are at, we may elect to do that with a second one down there as well. Interestingly, just as the PSAP grant kind of fell in line with the Hartford consolidation, the state this year has another PSAP grant. It's falling just in line with this Germantown consolidation. I think the sheriff is going to speak to that a little bit later. But we are going to be writing a grant for much of the equipment that is going to be needed to complete this consolidation. Under our best case scenario, we're looking like if everybody makes it through training, and we're thinking we can start with Germantown's third shift sometime end of September-ish. And then, of course, the other shifts would come on as you'd hire people and that they'd be trained, so it's a little more fluid. I think we had come up with an earlier timeline. It's a little bit tweaked because of the resignation and the retirement that we had, but that's kind of where we're at moving forward. I think either way, I believe we can accomplish full consolidation by 25. I want to say mid 25, but that may be a little aggressive. I'd say sometime in 25. As we've previously stated, one of the plans was, with these consolidations, the fire departments were looking to have that fire dispatcher. We do believe that with the consolidation of Germantown, that maybe won't happen right away, but as we get caught up with this and learn this, that we will be able to do that dedicated fire dispatcher. I know that is something that the fire departments have asked for a long time, and I think once we kind of get our boots on the ground and get a orientation on the landscape, that's something we'll be able to pull off with the new staffing. So, and that'll affect the county's 13 fire departments. As part of that grant that we're going to be looking for, the current dispatch equipment down there is 15 years old, the furniture down there, the old bullpen, if you will. So we're going to be going after and seeing if we can't get that replaced as part of this grant, building out those other consoles that we installed last year. We got the furniture, but we only put 2 fully operational consoles, trying to get those consoles done, and then the necessary wiring and cabling and things like that. So it's going to be pretty pricey just based on the last one. I think we're talking in excess of $500,000. The last piece I think is important to update you with the Germantown is we've been working collaboratively. Germantown always had ProPhoenix records management system like we have, but it wasn't the multi-juris component. So will be coming onto the county's multi-juris component, And one would think because both systems are supported by the same manufacturer, this would be a seamless, easy process. It has proven to be anything but that. There is countless hours on everyone's end to try to pull this off, probably since before December of last year. But I'm happy to say I think we can see the end of the road, and I think June 3rd is our targeted date to finally have them go live on that multi-juris platform. So that's kind of the first step in this whole consolidation process. It was important to get this component done, and I think we're nearing the end of the tunnel there. So, any questions on the Germantown update?
It appears there are no questions from the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Captain. Next item on the agenda, item F, Medical Examiner's Office update. And for that, we welcome Debbie Stadola, our Chief Deputy Medical Examiner.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So yes, I am Debbie. I am the Chief Deputy Medical Examiner for the county. A couple of you are familiar with me as I've been at some past public safety meetings. I was here in February and gave a 90-day update. And since we have some new members, I decided today would be a good day to do sort of a 6-month update. So some of this will be repeat information, but I thought it was important that you all kind of understand what we do and the status of the medical examiner's office here. So just to highlight just like an overarching idea of like who are we. So our office is only operated by 3 full-time employees. So that would be myself, and then I have Deputy Medical Examiner Craig Garbish and Randy Todorov. They've both been with the county for a number of years. We provide 24/7, 365 days a year of death investigation coverage to the county, just the 3 of us. Our office is located within the sheriff's office, and our morgue is underneath the Samaritan across the street. We also are supported by 2.5 forensic pathologists with Waukesha County. So we have a contract with Waukesha County. They do all of our autopsies and provide all of our pathology services. A little bit about me. I was appointed to be Chief Deputy ME for the county back in September. I have 8 years of experience in death investigations. 7.5 of those years were with Milwaukee County as a forensic investigator. I have a bachelor's in criminal justice, a death investigation certificate. I completed an associate's in forensic science last year, and I am accredited by the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators, which is a national organization that provides certification of death investigators across the country. In general, our job essentially is to investigate deaths that occur in the county that are reportable per Wisconsin State Statute 979. It's a very long list, which I won't go over with you guys today, but essentially anything that's not natural that occurs in the county is reportable to our office. Our job can entail scene visits, body transports. We also write detailed reports of any of our findings when we are at a scene. Ultimately, we will assist or determine the cause and manner of death and certify those death certificates for people that die in our county. Additionally, we sometimes are tasked with positively identifying individuals and also performing cremation views. So anyone that is going to be cremated in Washington County is viewed by our office. That's the law, and we have to issue permits on those cremation views before that can take place. The process for sort of our death investigation, we will either be dispatched by Washington County or receive a call directly to our office. We get calls from EMS, police departments, nursing homes, facilities, hospice agencies. So we take essentially a verbal report by phone, and then we make a determination if we need to do a scene investigation and how we will handle that case. Most often cases, if it's natural, are going to be released to a funeral home, and we won't really get much further involved. If it's something, again, that is suspicious in nature or not natural, we would do a scene visit, and then we do our own body transports either to our local morgue or we would go straight to Waukesha County, depending on time of day or when that autopsy may take place. Afterwards, we prepare a report of our findings. We may also order medical records, law enforcement reports, any other documentation that our pathologist is going to need to resolve that case. So we have additional roles above and beyond sort of death investigation. So, again, our overarching job is to determine cause and manner of death, but there's a lot more that goes into that than that. Wisconsin State Statute 979, again, sort of outlines or determines what our job is. There is no requirement in the statutes for our medical examiner to be an MD. However, currently Dr. Linda Budritsky does serve as our medical examiner. We're also responsible, or I am responsible as the department head for staff hiring, training, staff reviews, just the overall office operations, inventory and fleet management. We currently have 2 squads, and you guys and the county board approved a purchase of a 3rd squad, which is coming soon. And we have mandatory reporting to state organizations. So SUITRS is the sudden unexpected drug overdose review, and then the National Violent Death Review System. So those are mandated reportings. Anytime we have a death that falls under those categories, we have to provide all of our documentation essentially on those deaths for their review. I also participate in local death review committees. So Washington and Ozaki do a fatal child death review committee that I participate in, and then I'm also involved in traffic fatality reviews, things like that at a more local level. Obviously, I report here to you guys at Public Safety and County Board, and also something that's important for our job to go well is building connections with our local, our community partners. So all of our law enforcement agencies, EMS, funeral directors. It's critical that we have good relationships with those people as we work hand in hand. Obviously, as you can imagine, on cases on a day-to-day basis. 2023 statistics. So last year we had 1,011 cases reported to our office in total. Of those 1,011, we only took jurisdiction of 220. And of those 220, we did 117 autopsies and 103 external exams. And I'll go into kind of the difference between those two on the next slide, I think. Our investigators did 192 scene investigations and 157 body transports. And again, I did not start till September, so most of last year was covered by just 2 investigators. I believe they maybe had 1 or 2 part-timers that were helping out, but for the most part, Craig and Randy carried a lot of that workload themselves. So our relationship with Waukesha County, again, they provide all of our pathology services. So when we are determining whether a case is going to get an autopsy or not, these are sort of some of the reasons that we may choose to do one or not. Most autopsies are going to be done, again, on anything suspicious, anything with an injury, drug-related, or simply just non-natural causes or unknown causes, someone young that has no medical history. So when we send a case to Waukesha for autopsy, the doctor there is responsible for doing a full autopsy exam. They may order additional toxicology testing, histology, which is looking at tissues a little bit closer, and any other testing that they may require. That could be genetic testing, additional blood work. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can work out, respiratory panels. They will also review medical records, results of any of the testing that they do, and then the doctor there will determine the cause and manner of death, and the doctor there does sign the death certificate. So after we kind of do our scene investigation and write up our report, the rest of that case is essentially handled by Waukesha County's pathologists. On average, those cases can take anywhere from 4 to 6 months. There certainly are cases that can take longer than that. A lot of times, infants or more complicated cases that just require a lot of exhaustive testing do take some time. If there is a case that falls under our jurisdiction and we don't feel a full autopsy is required, but we still need to sign the death certificate, we will do what's called an external exam. So this is often a case where an individual may have an injury that is well documented in their medical records, and maybe they were in the hospital for several months and then they pass away. Those cases, because everything is well documented in medical records, don't necessarily require an exhaustive autopsy. So in cases like that, our staff would do a brief external exam of the individual, and then we would order medical records, which would then be reviewed by our pathologist in order to certify that death certificate. Those cases may take about a week. Sometimes they only take a couple of days, just because most often the cause of death is known at the time of death. There's not a lot of question around what might have happened. So our history with Waukesha County. So as I stated before, Dr. Linda Biedritsky is our appointed medical examiner for the county. Going way back with them, so from 2006 to 2015, we've had a relationship with Waukesha County dating back to 2006. For that period of time, Waukesha County essentially was just contracted for pathology services only. So your department head here in Washington County was the appointed ME, and then we certified the death certificates in-house with the guidance of the pathologist. So they would do all of the legwork in doing the autopsy and the things that are required by a pathologist. Then they would provide our office with a recommended cause and manner of death based on their findings, and we would certify the death certificate here locally. In 2015, we transitioned to appointing Dr. B as the medical examiner for the county. So this moved additional responsibilities to Waukesha County. They are now responsible for doing the administrative portion of certifying the death certificates. However, your department head here is still in charge of like the office operations, budget, committee meetings, staff oversight, those sorts of things. So in February, I had talked to you guys a little bit about kind of the status of where we were at 90 days into my work here. So we had mentioned that there was a significant backlog in our investigative reports. I am happy to report that we have made great improvement on that, and we are continuing to keep up on our current caseload, which is really important to me. We've been just having regular meetings with the Waukesha pathologists to get updates on cases that are still pending. This has been great education-wise for our staff, just learning a little bit more about the pathologist process, but also being able to give families updates and understand where we're at in the process and how close we are to closing some of those out. I've been working on reviewing, best practices as established by various organizations with our staff and implementing some policies and procedures to just kind of streamline some of our processes. And we have some movement on our office furniture and the vehicle that was approved by county board in February or March, which is really exciting. So we have an electrician in our office this week. And we're hoping to have our new furniture by the end of the month and possibly our vehicle by June. So that's all really exciting. We appreciate your support on those things. Our current contract with Waukesha is ending in December of this year. And so we are in the process of renegotiating a contract for 2025. We are scheduled to meet with Waukesha next month and plan to come back to go over kind of the conversation and any changes that we may be seeing with that contract with you guys next month. And that's all I have for you guys today. Any questions?
Of course I got a question. So back in, I'm going to say around 2013, there was, I'm going to say 6 to 8 part-time MEs, and I know this because I was one of them back then. And, and there was a lot more coverage. There was, I think, 1 full-time, and then the rest were part-time. Mm-hmm. Now there's 3 full-time to cover that same time, I guess. Mm-hmm. I know right around maybe 2014 there was changes with what investigations you actually do a physical on-site investigation. You kind of covered that in your report. Are the 3 positions enough to cover that without burnout and availability? I mean, that's not a lot of people for 24/7.
Yeah. So part of what I've done is encourage staff to sort of flex their time. So while we are covering 24/7, we're splitting the on-call time 3 ways. What I've done with current staff is if they take calls on weekends, I'm encouraging them to, come in late on Monday or cut out early on Friday to try and alleviate some of those hours that are bulking up. We have also really streamlined like what cases we're going to take report on. I'm working on educating. So for example, a lot of times in some counties, they require all hospice deaths to be reported. That can be a lot of phone calls, and most of those deaths are natural and really don't require our involvement. And so I've been working to educate our hospice agencies here locally that they don't need to call us on some of those. So that has decreased the call volume. And we do have the LTE, the limited term employee positions still available, and I am entertaining opening that up soon just to get us a little bit more relief. I only hesitate just because training someone on a limited term basis is difficult, especially when we don't have the call volume to like get someone up to speed in a timely manner. So it will be a commitment, and I have to find a candidate that either has a really great background that's perfect for this position or is going to stick around long enough to really get to a point where they can be independent. So yeah, I think we're cleaning up some of our death reporting processes, which is alleviating our staff. Having 3 full-timers is a huge help, and then flexing our time. And again, I think I will be filling some limited term employees as well, just for some coverage for vacations or whatever, just to alleviate us a little bit more.
With three people, it takes a big commitment by all 3 of them for coverage for vacations, holidays, out of town availability.
It's huge. It's huge. I'm really, Randy and Craig are really great. And I think for them, going from 2 full-timers to 3 full-timers has been a huge difference for them. So right now they're pretty happy where things are at, but I definitely see that there's obviously opportunity for improvement and a little bit more work-life balance, definitely.
Any other questions?
I've got a question.
Supervisor Tola.
When there's a death in Washington County, even though they're from outside of our county, what part do you do on that death?
So anyone that dies in our county is our responsibility, regardless of where they came from. Only exception to that rule would be if someone died at Freighter ED or Freighter inpatient, let's say in West Bend, they were in a car accident in Milwaukee County. We would then refer that case back to where the injury occurred. So unless there's an injury that occurs outside of our county, wherever they came from, if they died here, it is our responsibility.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Thank you for your enlightening report.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
Moving on into item G on our agenda, approval of Village of Germantown radio grant application. We have a motion and a second to begin consideration. A motion from Supervisor Berg with a second from Supervisor Toma. Is there any background information? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So in your packet, before the requests from the municipalities, I included a copy of the program literature itself, just really as background. I know there are a lot of new members of this committee, so I just kind of wanted to quickly hit some background on that. We allocated $500,000 to this grant program last year to fund radio needs for our municipal partners. Standard radio models were developed for police and fire, and those are included in that first piece of literature. The grants are intended to fund 100% of the cost of those standard models, right? So other things that wouldn't be funded are different flavors of accessories, extended warranties, some things like that, right? I'm not a radio expert. No one on my team is necessarily a radio expert, so we didn't want to get in the business of receiving invoices and scouring them for eligible and ineligible costs. So we developed some standards, and basically we identify the type that they requested, and that's the amount that's provided, and those amounts are again listed in that literature that was provided. So we awarded a number of these grants last session. At that time, we even talked about streamlining this process a little bit, considering setting these as consent agenda items, for example, or when there are multiple requests like this, we could potentially bulk them into one agenda item or something like that. So we'll run through these requests, and then hopefully we can kind of touch on that at the end to see what your thoughts are on potentially going to consent on these. And again, we can talk about that at the end. But unless there are any questions about the process itself, I'll just kind of dive into the first request, which is the Village of Germantown.
Please do.
Okay, thank you. So this request is for 4 portables and 1 mobile radio. I believe this is related to the officers that were added through the referendum that was recently passed. So they're being proactive here, looking to get those purchases initiated soon. So one thing you'll notice on these, we do provide a recommendation to the committee, which is your choice to follow or not. But we've gone through, we go through each of these requests and we do provide a recommendation. So this one is for $34,900. There's $441,800 remaining in the fund. That's not inclusive of these requests today, but we will also provide some background on what the balance is in the fund. So,
very good. We have a motion to approve the request of $34,900. Is there any discussion in the committee? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item, which is the approval of City of West Bend radio grant application. Do we have a motion and a second to consider that approval?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion from Supervisor Toma. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second from Supervisor Krieger-Gundrum.
Yeah, thank you. So the West Bend budget recently included 9 firefighters and an additional vehicle, and so this request is for 11 portable radios and 2 mobiles to outfit those people and that equipment.
And the amount of this grant is $85,400. We have a motion and a second for approval. Is there any further discussion? Supervisor Toma?
I have a question. Is this for new, they're adding on? It's not replacements?
These are new, correct.
New.
Mm-hmm.
Are they putting on additional people for this?
Yes, 9 firefighters were added in the budget.
Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I see this one in the expansion talks about extended warranty and some additional equipment. Was that taken out of the grant?
Yes, so those standard radios that I referenced and the pricing of those standards, the extended warranties is that's not included in those pricing.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Then in the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to agenda item 3I, approval of modification to previously approved Village of Germantown radio grant application. Does that fall under your purview as well?
It does, yes. Thank you. So this one is a little bit unique. This request was approved last session. Before they could purchase the radios, the prices went up. And so, as a result, we're bringing this back to sort of reapprove based on those pricing increases. $37,800 was approved last session. With the increase, we're asking for an additional $5,200 to bring the total to $43,000.
And my apologies to the parliamentarian that I did not request a motion and a second before we began talking about this. Do we have a motion on this item? Supervisor Byrd with a second from Supervisor Newman. No, sorry, I interrupted your explanation.
Oh, sure. No problem. I did not have much more in the way of an explanation, really. It's just, again, prices increased, so we're looking to adjust the award so they can make the purchase.
We have a motion and a second to approve an additional $5,200 for this grant. Any further discussion?
I just have
Yes,
a question. I know Aaron had mentioned it about consent agenda. Is now appropriate time to add that discussion? Or?
I'll refer to our parliamentarian.
Okay.
Any further discussion to this increase, $5,200? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And with the input of our legislative clerk, we'll keep those separate in the future. Item J, use of strategic priorities funds for Sheriff's Honor Guard team. We welcome back Sheriff Schultes.
Thank you very much. This particular agenda item is really all about transparency of the Sheriff's Office with the Public Safety Committee for a couple of different reasons. The first is usually when I come in front of this committee and asking for financial support, it's for a real need in our agency. It's something it's a public safety issue. This particular one, you could argue it's a desire versus a need, but there's important aspects of it that I'd like to fill you in on. First off, what is an honor guard team? If you're not familiar with it, it's the highly dressed, impeccably precision movements of uniformed personnel that present colors at meetings. They provide casket overwatches at funerals. And rifle salute team at the memorial services. Those types of things. We are one of the very few sheriff's offices in the state. There's some small ones that don't, but by far, by our size, we are literally the only one in the state that doesn't have our own honor guard team. In fact, there's 3 smaller departments in Washington County that have their own honor guard teams. I haven't seen it as a priority. However, this year alone, we've had 3 funerals of retired law enforcement officers that have requested casket watches, and so we manage. We try to dress up our patrol uniforms, but I think there's something to be said about having a formal honor guard team, and that's really the main reason is providing support to families that. God forbid, have a loss, a line of duty death. We've only had, one is too many, but 3 in Washington County, and even tomorrow, actually, we're going to be celebrating that at the Washington County Fair Park. I tried to tie this into a strategic priority. And one of the things, I had to go back actually to 2017, where one of the things was supporting the historical assets of the county. And if you don't know, the Sheriff's Office has been in existence actually 3 years before the state of Wisconsin even was a state. It was Washington County territory. And I think it kind of highlights the historical assets and the traditions of the Sheriff's Office. One thing I'd like you to know, the other important thing about transparency is I think I could have found the funds for this within my budget currently, but it didn't seem like it was as transparent as it should have been, and that's why I'm asking formally in public. During our transition from our sidearms, we upgraded to new firearms this past year. And we weren't sure what we were going to do with our old firearms. They were 12 to 15 years old. They're a caliber that is not desirable. We were having a tough time trying to find somebody actually wanted them. So what we elected to do was to offer them to the deputies that carried them, so they're able to buy back their firearms. So we had a unanticipated revenue of about $20,000 that, talking with the county executive, I probably could have, it's probably making Aaron very nervous, but I probably could have just used that money in place of coming here and asking you. But we haven't typically done that with that type of thing. That money really should go to offsetting the cost of the handgun. So that's really what brings me in front of you guys is in the area of transparency. It's not a cheap endeavor. I'm asking to outfit a deputy, and we're doing this across all the divisions. So we're offering it to communications and our jail and patrol. But from head to toe, it's like $2,000 for the entire uniform. and some of the assorted equipment. We're able to absorb a lot of the training, which is it's actually fairly substantial. It's about 40 hours of training within our budget. But I'm asking for the strategic priority monies, and I've consulted with the county executive's office on it as well, and I don't want to I misspeak for, but the county executive was supportive of it.
Thank you for that background information. We would require a motion before any further discussion.
Yes.
For the expenditure of or approval of $16,000 for training. We have a motion from Supervisor Newman. Do we have a second? A second. From Supervisor Toma. And now for discussion. Seeing none from the committee, I'll just offer my comment. I have a son who was in the Navy as part of the Navy's ceremonial guard, and he was in his position basically a permanent pallbearer for funerals at Arlington and dignified transfers into Washington, D.C. And when he transferred to a ship afterwards, one of his shipmates said, "Well, I don't know why you guys do that. That's just a waste of time." It is not a waste of time. People who die in the line of duty, people who serve honorably, deserve the respect, deserve that honor, in my opinion. And the training that he went through was like several months, so I'm glad it's not all that. But I think this is well worth the investment, especially since the funds are so readily available. Any further comments? Yes, sir.
I'll be honest, I did not know you didn't have an honor guard, so I'm glad you brought that to our attention. I think it's a great idea. I'm 100% supportive.
Anyone else? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, use of strategic priorities to fund priorities funds to implement tactical EMS program for SWAT team. And there was information in the packet that the requested amount has gone from $12,000 to $15,000, which will be amended. But the motion we would entertain at this point is for $15,000. Do we have a motion? Supervisor Berg?
I'll second.
Supervisor Toma? And any background information, Sheriff?
Sure. So this really is more of a real need versus a desire. So our current model for when we have a tactical call-out, we've had a SWAT team since 1990, is if we have what we think is a high-risk call that could involve bodily security to both our officers or innocent citizens or the suspect for that matter, what we typically have done is we paged out our fire EMS partners and had them stage not in the inner perimeter, in the outer perimeter, a safe zone. And if we had a staff member or a citizen that needed help, what we would try to do is the tactical officer on scene would try to administer their own first aid, and we do carry packs with us, tourniquets and airways. But we would try to stabilize them and then try to extricate them out to the safe zone, where in turn then we would turn them over to EMS personnel, our partners, and they would provide paramedic, EMS level, transport them to the hospital. The model that has been that's used in a lot of SWAT teams, particularly our size, we have 23 total sworn members on our team, is to have tactical EMS. So they're our EMS partners. So they're EMS paramedic levels that are actually embedded in our team that are in the inner perimeter. So in the clearly the danger zone, that they're able to provide immediate care to a downed officer, a downed citizen, even a suspect, before they're actually extricated out to that safe zone. Sometimes individuals are pinned down and they're not able to be extracted, and we have to provide that life-saving on scene. So what this would allow us to do is this particular grant funds will be used just to outfit, to have our fire department personnel provided with ballistic protection, vests, helmets, comms, and some other things that would provide them safety to be within the inner perimeter. And then there's a whole bunch of different licensing that takes place with TEMS that they are specifically trained on tactical intervention and tactics, and they would actually train with our office. But I think this is something that is well worth it. We have an awesome partner right now in Germantown Fire Department, and I think we can expand it to other agencies, but right now Germantown is willing to provide all the personnel, all the training, all the non-ballistic equipment, and all they were asking from our agency, the county, was to supply them with ballistic equipment. And I asked for what initially I thought was enough, was $2,000 per officer. It turns out to be about $2,500 an officer. Of course, the costs always are more than I anticipated. But I'm asking for it over 3 years because we can outfit 2 TMS officers per year for 3 years, and that spreads out the expiration of the ballistic stuff. So it's good for about 5 years. So if we can do it, we can kind of absorb that into our budget eventually, rather than having one buy all of them at the same time.
Thank you for that background information. Are there any questions? Supervisor Tolman.
Just out of curiosity, how many SWAT team officers do we have?
So we have a total of 23 total sworn officers on our team. I believe 18 of them are operators. We have some trainees, and that's from Hartford Police Department, Germantown Police Department. I believe Jackson has a trainee, and our sheriff's office. But I think there's 18 actual SWAT operators.
EMT officers?
No, I don't know if we have any that are certified EMT as cops.
Okay.
I don't think we do.
Because I was here for when there was a practice. They did and I thought there was a lot more officers than that. I was surprised where they all come from.
Oh, gotcha.
And I visualize them just sitting in a room waiting for a call, but they are all officers that are maybe out on patrol or maybe off duty at the time.
Yes, we do not have a full-time tactical team. They all have primary duties of patrol, typically, or detective bureau.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 3L, 2024 Resolution Grant Application, Wisconsin Department of Military Affairs Public Safety Answering Point, PSAP Grant Program, fiscal year 2025. If you would proceed with background information.
Do we need a motion and a?
We'll take the motion first. Do we have a motion? Supervisor Krieger-Gundrum and Supervisor Newman. Please proceed.
So I don't want to regurgitate everything that the captain told you about, but this really is a continuation of. I realize you may be new to this committee, but you're not new to the county board. So last session, I think it was last session, you approved the 2024 fiscal year PSAP grant by the Department of Military Affairs for the Hartford consolidation. That was about $500,000 in that neighborhood that we were able to capture from the state to do the infrastructure updates for the Hartford consolidation. We were very fortunate to get that grant. It was, like I said, it was about $500,000. The pot of money statewide was $6 million, so we were able to capture a good portion of that to save our taxpayers and our tax levy. So this is the same exact thing that we're trying to do with the Hartford, or with the Germantown consolidation. In the committee report, I can go through everything that we want to replace, but there's a list of the 13 things that we really are looking to replace. We don't have formal quotes on that yet. I would have loved to have everything laid out for you, exactly what we need. We're in the process. It's kind of has a quick turnaround time. We have to submit this grant by August 1st, by 11:59, I think. So what I'm coming to you is to actually get permission to apply for that grant. This particular grant from the Department of Military Affairs, last one was $6 million. This is $18 million. So we feel very good about this consolidation proposal that we'll give. I don't think they're going to hold it against us that we won a grant last year, but I don't know for sure.
Any questions?
I guess I should mention too, it's a 90-10 match that so the total grant is up to $750,000. I don't think we're going to have to apply for that much, but we don't have the quotes back. But it would be up to a $75,000 match. But it should also be noted that so it would increase our revenues, our budget rather, by $750,000 up to, and we're required for that 10% match. But the match requirements would be funded with a previous resolution 2348 that was previously approved by the county board.
Thank you for that information. Any discussion? So the motion on the floor is for basically permission to apply for a grant. The net cost of the county would be $75,000. Supervisor Toma. We had a motion from Krieger Gunder, Supervisor Krieger Gunder with a second from Newman. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Item number 4 on our agenda is to set the next meeting date. It's my understanding, based on conversations with staff, that Wednesday mornings are the best time. Are Wednesday mornings a hardship for any Public Safety Committee member? That being said, in the past, the Public Safety Committee met at 7:30. Would a 7 a.m. start time be a hardship for any committee member?
No, it's fine by me.
I don't have a problem with it. Works for me.
No. I don't have a problem with it.
Very good. We will continue that. Our next meeting will be on the 3rd Wednesday in June at 7 a.m. Thank you all for your interest and support of public safety in Washington County, your input, your time.